So I'm bringing you another pistol brace build. And this one I've actually showcased before, but I took it down because of the whole pistol brace debacle. And I've made a few tweaks of this, so I decided to redo the video and kind of explain the thinking behind it. And I technically use this lower for a couple of different uppers. And I've this was a more recent purchase, like within the last few months, and this is a 10.5 inch. And I'll go over this one just because I utilize this lower for this upper. This is a factory built 10.5 inch, while this particular upper was handcrafted by myself. This lower was too. I bought the lower stripped and the upper stripped, and I built this build around the barrel. Let's get to the barrel, I guess. So the barrel that I built this around was a 12.5 inch Criterion Core. It's got a tapered barrel design, so it gets a little bit thinner as you're going towards the muzzle. I like the balance of the Criterion cores. It has a 0.625 diameter gas block in carbine length, and I've put an adjustable gas block in this because I built this to be suppressed down the road. And because I was running it to be suppressed down the road, it's a Surefire War Comp on the end to go with my Surefire RC2. And the Surefire War Comp is quite long and quite pricey. These are about $150 MSRP muzzle devices. I found mine for like 112 bucks. I bought a couple of them actually around last Christmas and put them on a couple of builds. But here's a standard A2 birdcage, and you can see it's about 60% longer than an A2 birdcage. And for most people, A2 bird cages are going to work just fine. I know people like to change out their muzzle devices, just like myself, but unless you're running suppressors or you really like want a break or something different, you really don't need to change it out. A2s work great; they've worked for years. But I'm a little bit special. I like something that looks a little bit different, and I'm going to suppress this down the road with a Surefire RC2. So that's why I put a Surefire War Comp on this. I timed it neutrally because I do shoot offhand just to keep myself in practice. But you can time this for left-handed or right-handed shooting if that's your thing. But I just prefer to run this neutrally. It's a benefit for me and for other shooters. Like, let's say I give it to a left-handed shooter, it's not right-hand timed, so it messes them up. So I don't want the recoil, if it's moving to the left or right, to disrupt my sight picture in a certain way. I kind of want consistency and stuff. So going back to the barrel, the barrel isn't cold hammer forged, but it is chrome lined. And the chrome lining and the Criterion barrels are some of the best that I've seen in the industry. I don't know who does their chrome lining, but it's absolutely superb when you first get it. So, and the chamber is hand lapped by Criterion itself. So you're kind of getting some hand fitting and hand tooling when it comes to the barrels. And that's kind of what you're paying for with Criterion and whoever's doing their chrome lining, like I said. So these are very accurate barrels, and I wish I would have kept the target, but this particular barrel seems to really like SS109, and this is SS109 62 grain, basically like M855, but for whatever reason, I can get half-inch groups at 100 yards with that particular ammo in this barrel. So very, very accurate barrel. I highly recommend Criterion cores, even though they've gone up to about 330 bucks from like the $250 mark that I purchased this barrel about over a year ago. I purchased this barrel over a year ago for like 250 bucks. They're now 330, just came back in stock. The gas block's probably going to be changed out. This is a Wojentech adjustable gas block. And it's not a bad gas block, but it is a set screw design gas block. I'm not talking about the bottom, because the bottom is also set screwed with Criterion dimpling one dimple for the set screw under the gas port. But the set screw is in the front, and I opened this up about halfway, and this weapon system wasn't reliably feeding 223 ammunition. There just wasn't enough gas. So I opened it up about 3/4 of a way, and now it cycles everything. So I want my weapon systems to cycle everything, but I do encourage you guys to test out your weapon systems, check the reliability of it, do rapid strings of fire, shoot different types of loads from 223, 556, different grain weights, see if your barrel is accurized for different grain weights and stuff, if you have the ability to. And I do recommend that, trying out different weapon or different grain sizes, different ammunitions to see what your barrel likes. Because you may find a cheap ammunition like this that this barrel really, really likes that you can get consistent half-inch groups with. So I'm very, very impressed that I can get half-inch groups because I don't consider myself a great shooter. I consider myself a good shooter, but not a great shooter. I did put a Mod Light 18650 PLHV2 flashlight on this with a Surefire Z68 tail cap. It's probably my favorite tail cap on the market. It's just very positive. Like, it's got a nice feel to it, nice click on it, much more so than the Mod Light tail cap. This is a Mod Light tail cap, and it's just spongy feeling. It's not as responsive. Like, I'm pushing it in, and you can see like it. You have to push it into a certain. I don't know. It's not consistent. Not as consistent as a Z68, and the click just isn't as positive either. So definitely not as good of a tail cap as the Z68s. The Z68s, however, you can see just how positive that is. They sell out quite frequently before they come back in stock, so a little bit harder to find. And then the mod lights only go on sale once a year for Black Friday. I think they're like 250 or 230, something like that, for the complete mod light this Black Friday. But it doesn't come with the mount. You always have to buy the mount separately. And this particular mount is a Cloud Defensive offset M-LOK mount. I prefer Arasaka offset M-LOKs. I just wanted to try a Cloud Defensive Scout mount. The machining on it is better than Arasaka as far as like the detailing and the refinement of it, but it's a little harder to install. I don't think it's going to be as robust as the Arasaka. The flashlight mount holes look a little bit like they're closer together. I'm afraid with enough twisting that it could shear off. I'm not going to test it, but they don't look as robust as the Arasaka mounts, and they're more expensive. But I figured I'd try it out. Not a bad mount though. It's definitely quality made. Cloud Defensive makes quality products, but I'd buy the cheaper Arasaka mount if I could do it over again. And then I've got a Daniel Defense fixed front sight and fixed rear sight. I kind of wanted to keep this lower as an iron sight lower. That's kind of why you'll see iron sights only on this. But even with the iron sights, I'm still running a red dot or a holographic. This is my favorite Vortex red dot / holographic, and the only one that I will recommend to people. I picked this one up for about $450, and this is the Vortex UH1 Gen 2. I quite like the aesthetics of it. It's very cyberpunky, in my opinion. It's got a great mount to it. Quick detach, just like the EOTech. Easy to change out and stuff. Like put on other pick rails and tighten down, and to adjust the tension screw on there. The adjustments for the windage and elevation are quite nice. And the reticle, I actually prefer this reticle over the EOTechs. It's a better reticle than like an EXPS 3 dash. But the refresh rate is the same as all Vortex red dots. But it offers you a lot of features. I don't quite know if it's worth the $600 mark, which I see them at now. But if you can find these for $450 or even $500 like I did, I do highly recommend these. Battery life kind of sucks on all holographics, including EOTechs. But what I do is I keep some of these Surefire rechargeable 123As. I keep like 4 of these on hand and keep them fully charged. And I change out my holographics every month. I just change the battery in it every month. and I don't keep it on, but this does have an auto off and auto on feature, which is kind of handy. So, and then going back to the front end, Emissary Development Handbrake, my favorite hand stop on the market. A little bit pricey for a polymer hand stop, but it just feels so good. Like it feels like it was designed for my grip in my hand. I don't know if other people feel that way, but these are my favorite hand stops on the market. 35 to $40 for these. Two screws that go into one M-LOK slot, where some of the hand stops, like my True North Concepts, take up two M-LOK slots for two screws. This only takes up one M-LOK slot for two screws. And it's just really easy to barricade. Really, it's a good aesthetically looking hand stop, and it's got nice texture to it. Just all around good hand stop, and these sell out quite often too. I'm actually waiting for the black and the FDE to come back in stock so I can buy both the black and FDE version. So that's how much I like it. I've got 3 of these. I'll probably buy more of them. Favorite hand stop on the market, Emissary Development Handbrake. And then I keep some Ranger bands around where I C-clamp my grip, and that's just a reference point for me, and it actually keeps my hand from slipping around a little bit and stuff. Give me a little bit of texture, a little bit of heat resistance, and then sometimes I'll put Ranger bands around where the gas block is, kind of just to show where the barrel is going to heat up the fastest and the most with long strings of fire. So upper receiver is a M4E1 upper, and I wanted to match the lower. It's still a forged upper receiver, and so is the lower, but it still has kind of a billet look to it. That's what I've always liked about M4E1s. M4E1s are probably my favorite budget lower on the market if I'm just going straight forged. They offer a lot of benefits: flared magwell, integrated trigger guard, and a set screw for your bolt catch, which is kind of nice if you ever want to change out your bolt catch and stuff. So bolt catch in this is just mil spec with a Magpul bad lever. I quite like bad levers. Some people don't because they're afraid they're going to ND, but I'm going to tell you, I've never ND'd with a Magpul bad lever, and I put them on a lot of my rifle builds, so never had an issue with it. And if you just train with it, I think you'll be okay. The trigger, Geisley G2S trigger, 2-stage trigger. Not a bad trigger, but not my favorite. Nice reset. A little bit heavy on that first stage. A little bit squishy on that second stage. Definitely not an SSA or an SSAE. The more I shoot this, the more I realize it's probably in the same vein as it's probably the same break and reset as an MBT2S. It's a little more positive of a reset than in the LaRue MBT2S. But I've seen these on sale on Black Friday, this last Black Friday, for $89. I think that's a great deal for these. The thing I don't like G2Ss is around the hammer pin. They put a almost like a spring or like a detent that you have to put in around your hammer pin. Otherwise, your hammer pin's going to fall out. Don't know why they designed it that way, where their other, like their SSA and other SSAEs don't require that at all. But for whatever reason, the G2S will. So they're a little bit harder, a little more finicky to install. Another extra part in there. So just something to kind of keep in mind. And then the safety is my second favorite safety on the market, and that's the Fortis SLS. It's got a 50-degree throw, same size lever on both sides. Some people don't like that, as it can kind of impede or get on your hand, and these are a little bit sharp, but I do kind of like it because I can access the safety with my firing hand. I do use that sometimes. So, and then bolt carrier group. I bought this bolt carrier group to run suppressed as well. And that's a Lantac enhanced bolt carrier group. It's nitride coated, 8620 carrier with a Carpenter 158, I believe, bolt. it's magnetic particle inspected, but it's not high pressure tested, and they've actually machined gas ports in this to um, shoot the gas away from you if it's over gas, which uh, most ARs are going to be a little bit over gassed. It's got a dumb cam pin, a little bit of a gimmick, but they say it's supposed to wear out your upper receiver as it's reciprocating a little bit less. I think it's definitely harder to take out, but a little bit of a gimmick and stuff. Then it's got a nice little Lantac logo and stuff. Nitride coated, very slick, very easy to clean. Nitriding is not my favorite coating by any means, but they also make this in titanium nitride and nickel boron. This will probably be my preferred coating when it comes to those three. So good looking bolt carrier group. It's enhanced, a little bit flare on the end of the carrier to keep it from bolt mounts or carrier tilt. And you really only notice that with doing like a 2 second bell drill where you're just doing rapid shots very quickly. I don't really notice it even with that, but that's where I would say you would get a benefit from like a flared carrier for an enhanced bolt carrier group. And then Radiant Raptor charging handle. It's the one that was in my ADM. That's why you see the ADM logo on that. And then Geisley Super 42 H2 buffer. It probably would run just fine with a H1, but it's a little softer with the H2. I designed it, or at least I opened up the gas where I kind of want it to reciprocate a little bit slower with the H2. And then SB Tactical PDW brace. Really, really like this brace more than SBA 3, SBA 4, but it's a little more pricey. I picked this one up for about 180, but they're like 210 to 240. Got 3 positions. That's all the way out. And what I like about this over the Maxim is that you've got a full receiver extension for your cheek weld and stuff, where some of the Maxim defense ones will have a little opening, and this is where I cheek weld it right here. So I like that. I usually run it all the way out, but you can run it halfway on the second position. But if you run it all the way in, just remember it's going to impede on your takedown pin. But I do like that you can run a standard like carbine buffer if you want to in this. So you can run your JP Enterprises silent capture spring, your Armor Spec silent capture spring, spring go spring, or a Geisley Super 42 or just regular carbine buffer and buffer spring if you wanted to. So it's really versatile as far as braces go. And it's definitely a little more compact than just a standard buffer system. I think it saves about half an inch, maybe an inch, because it can go all the way into the brace. Like that's hollowed out there. Stuff. So a little bit shorter and stuff than a regular receiver extension with a stock or a brace on it. All right, so let's show the 10.5, and that was factory built from Aero Precision. Not that I'm a huge fan of Aero Precision, but I definitely think they make decent enough stuff that a guy that typically likes Gucci-esque equipment is willing to buy still. And I really liked this upper because I didn't have a 10.3 or 10.5 inch, and this is a 10.5 inch 5.56 ballistic advantage barrel with a carbine length gas system with a pinned front sight base for a gas block. It also has a free float handguard with their M4E1 enhanced handguard and their upper. So this is almost a monolithic. It acts very much like a Cobalt Kinetics upper handguard system, or a kind of a monolithic-esque handguard system. So I would actually feel comfortable mounting an optic or a laser on the end of this where some upper handguard combos I wouldn't have as much confidence in. Not that I plan on doing that, but it is kind of a nice contingency, more or less. It gives me some confidence and some peace of mind. Uh, Forget what the handguard length is. It's probably either, I think it's 8 inches, right? You can see how much of the barrel is actually exposed. Two pins in there look pretty nice. The taper pins look decent. They did have to take the swivel out, which I really don't care. And then put a JMac Customs 4-prong on here. Let's see how much shorter it is, because I've never seen how much shorter it is to a war comp, but it is a little bit shorter than a war comp, probably like 3 centimeters or something like that, maybe a little more than quarter of an inch. So it's not all that much shorter than like a war comp, but it's significantly cheaper. I picked this up for $90. It seems like a quality flash hider at least, and it's chemo suppressor host capable. So the same mounting system you'll get from most like Sons of Liberty, Gunworks, Noxes, or Dead Air compatible muzzle devices, minus their Xeno pattern. This is the chemo, which your Dead Air Sandman case and stuff will utilize. And then put a JMac Customs hand stop. This is what was on my 10.5-inch 300 Blackout that I just featured. I really like this hand stop. It only takes up one M-LOK slot, but it only has one screw. But I have not noticed any twisting or movement in this little. It's more of a finger stop than a hand stop, but it's very comfortable. This is how I run it, at least. I quite like the aesthetics. I would have kept it on the 10.5-inch if it was tanadized, right? Flashlight is a mod light again with a PLH V2, but this is the 18350 body with the mod light tail cap because I didn't want to spend the extra money on the Z68 and they didn't have them on stock. And this particular Cloud Defensive Scout mount is the offset SBR mount. So it's like an inline mount, except it's like an offset inline mount, if that makes sense. And I could push this a little bit further forward just because of the front sight base, right? And it's still comfortable enough where I'm holding it and I can still access my flashlight and whatnot. And let's just do a comparison real quick, just because I have it out. I was telling you yesterday how much difference in size that the 18350 mod light was to the 18350 Cloud Defensive 3.0, and you can see how much smaller the mod light is. So it's significantly smaller if you're worried about footprint and whatnot. And you're losing about 50% of the candela, but you're keeping the lumens. So pick and choose your battles and what you need for your applications. But I absolutely do recommend Mod Light. Not a huge fan of their like marketing or how they. There was a big debacle between like Lucas Botkin and T-Rex Arms and Mod Light for a few years ago. Not a huge fan on how they handled that or how Lucas handled that, if I'm being completely fair and honest, but they do make good flashlights. Smallest flashlight footprint on the market, if that's a consideration of yours. And then I'll put a Scalar Works rear sight on this. I think it goes very well with the aesthetic. Irons only. Shoot irons only with this one, just to kind of keep my my iron shooting up to date along with this. Sometimes I'll just use this as a rear aperture, but I also have a rear sight if I want to get the full iron sight experience, I should say. But I do train where I'll turn off my holographic and use the tube of the holographic as the rear aperture for my front sight base. So that will work, and I've been training around that, but it's a little finicky. I'd say within 50 yards, it's doable, but it's not ideal. But I have been training just to see how that works, because I've heard you can use like the tube from like a T2 or like a Holosun 403B or something as your rear aperture, and it absolutely does work. And then blackout defense charging handle that I had in my Quantum DTL, and a nickel boron bolt carrier group that I had laying around, because not that I had issues with the head spacing and this upper, but the head spacing was very tight in this particular upper, where just a phosphated bolt, a phosphated bolt was kind of getting stuck in there, very tight. I shot a mag through this, and that's all I've shot through this upper, and I haven't had any malfunctions in it yet. But this nickel boron, it's a little bit easier to lock into that chamber, and I'm going to break it in with this particular bolt. If it runs well with this bolt, I may just keep it, since this is just kind of a budget, more of a budget upper. But when I initially got this nickel boron, I believe it's a Toolcraft. This Toolcraft nickel boron bolt carrier group, I hand polished it, so it's even slicker than it normally was. So this is a Toolcraft nickel boron bolt carrier group. Probably has, I don't know, 1,500 rounds on this. I've changed the gas rings on this, but that's it. And it's still looks fairly new. They've got a couple of scratches and chips on the actual carrier itself, but still looks good. I clean and polish a lot of my bolts and stuff after every range trip. So yeah, that's my 10.5 inch and my 12.5 inch AR pistol build. This was probably one of my more favorite builds that I've done. Very fun. Once I got this tuned right for with the gas block and everything, it's been nothing but reliable, very accurate with the right ammunition. Half MOA I will take all day, and the half MOA I was using a rear bag and a Accutac bipod. That's why I have this 3-slot Picatinny on the front right there. So it was a very stable shooting position. No wind, low humidity around wintertime and stuff. So I'll factor all that stuff in. For the most part, I can get like 3/4 MOA on most days, where my half MOA was on 2 days, and I'm completely happy with that. So this has been a very fun build. I think 12.5 inches still keeps very good velocity for the 5.56 cartridge, but still keeps it compact enough, like more compact than a 13.9, a 14.5. I'd say the best all-around barrel length is probably 16 inches, if I'm being honest. But it is kind of nice to have a more compact weapon system, especially if you're going to be running a suppressor. So I'm going to see how this runs with the suppressor once I get it. But that was my thinking behind when building this 12.5 inch. And there are probably better barrels on the market for suppressor use as far as 12.5 inches go. I know Roscoe makes the K9, and there's a mid-length gas system 12.5 inch, which probably would work a little bit better as a suppressor only 12.5 inch. But I built this to be suppressed, but also to be reliable unsuppressed, and that's the main feature I go for in most of my builds. I want it to be reliable with all different types of ammunition. That's that's what I would like out of my builds altogether. So while I do concentrate on the aesthetics of my build, ultimately reliability is really what I'm going for. But if I can get reliability and some just badass aesthetics, I'll definitely do that any day. And I don't see any builds like I build things. I think I make them pretty unique and pick some pretty unique parts. Granted, like, yeah, war comps, handbrakes, UH1s, PDW stocks, K2s, they're nothing new, but I don't actually see a lot of people running the Fortis SLS stocks or SLS safety selectors all that much. And I don't see people running setups like this with iron sights and a holographic. I don't see many people rocking front sight bases with free float handguards, even though you can buy this from the factory. I think some people overlook stuff like this. This is the kind of stuff that I look for, stuff that is unique, but I don't know. I do like unique things. JMac Customs, I know Palmetto State Armory started putting those on their Saber line, so I think they're becoming a little more popular, but I think these are pretty underrated suppressor hosts, especially for running dead air. Most people go for Sons of Liberty Gunworks Noxes or whatever the manufacturer is that make the Noxes without the ports in them because someone else makes those for Sons of Liberty Gunworks. But I like the aesthetics of this. I actually think the Nox is just ugly as shit. If I'm, yeah, it's just ugly. JMac makes some very aesthetically pleasing accessories and stuff. So I like what JMac Customs does with the AK furniture, and I've liked their muzzle devices and things that I've purchased too. So if you have any questions, just let me know. Appreciate appreciate the comments and the likes and stuff. I think it's a cool build. I always think my builds are cool, but that's because I built them. But I don't know. I think the consensus is with most of the people that watch, they quite like my builds as well. So I know I don't build the cheapest builds. I definitely put some Gucci stuff on my builds, but I can focus on a relatively inexpensive build every now and then, and this is definitely one of them. It's definitely good to keep things simplified a little bit. I think it's good to know and stay iron shooting every now and then, just so you know how, right? In case you pick up a rifle system and that's all it has on it, because a lot of people just run like carry handle front sight base now. You know, the vintage stuff is becoming kind of cool, and the clones are becoming kind of cool. Whereas they everyone was kind of trying to modernize their ARs at one point back when I really started to build things. So yeah, again, if you have any questions, I'll leave them in the comments below, and I appreciate the views, and thanks for watching, guys.